Most men are far more emotional than the world believes, not because they express more, but because they suppress more. And nothing exhausts a man faster than constantly pretending that he doesn't care, that nothing affects him, that he is immune to disappointment, immune to rejection, immune to feeling overlooked or taken for granted. Men don't pretend because they enjoy the silence. They pretend because they learned that expressing how they truly feel rarely leads to understanding. It leads to consequences. A man who expresses hurt is told he's weak. A man who expresses confusion is told he's insecure. A man who expresses fear is told he's not masculine enough. A man who expresses emotional pain is told he's too sensitive. So men adapt, not by becoming emotionless, but by becoming expressionless, and this adaptation becomes their exhaustion. The first reason men pretend they don't care is psychological conditioning. From childhood, boys are rewarded for composure and punished for vulnerability. Don't cry. Man up. Handle it. Be strong. Don't be dramatic. You'll get over it. These phrases don't create resilient men. They create quiet men, men who internalize everything and express nothing. The second reason is relational consequence. When men open up in relationships, they quickly learn that vulnerability can either deepen connection or destroy attraction. A man who talks about his insecurity may be seen as honest, or he may suddenly be seen as less confident. A man who expresses emotional need may be seen as communicative, or he may suddenly be seen as too much. A man who admits fear may be seen as human, or he may suddenly be seen as unreliable. Men learn this pattern early. Women appreciate vulnerability until it makes them uncomfortable. Women say they want emotional expression, but often lose attraction when it fully appears. So men stop expressing, not because they don't feel, but because they don't want to lose the people they care about. The third reason men pretend they don't care is social perception. Men are expected to be the stable ones, the rock, the foundation, the calm force in emotional storms. If he reacts too strongly, he is told he's dramatic. If he reacts too softly, he is told he doesn't care. Men live within a very narrow emotional range that society allows them to occupy. And outside that range, everything a man feels becomes wrong. This emotional compression drains men. They operate every day under the pressure of having to hide what they feel, while still being responsible for the feelings of everyone around them. There is a point in every man's life where he realizes something uncomfortable. He's not allowed to hurt the way others hurt. If a woman cries, the world comforts her. If a man breaks, the world questions him. So men learn to break quietly. This quiet breaking is not dramatic. It's subtle. It's slow. It's the kind of exhaustion that hides behind responsibility, behind consistency, behind the phrase, "I'm fine," said with a steady voice and a tired soul. Men don't grow numb because they don't feel anymore. They grow numb because feeling has consequences. Every time a man expresses pain and the person in front of him dismisses it, something inside him shuts down. Every time he tries to explain his frustration and someone tells him he's overreacting, another part of him retreats. Every time he finally opens up and it is met with judgment, comparison, or ridicule, his willingness to try again fades. What people don't understand is this: when a man goes silent, it's not indifference, it's self-protection. The emotional labor expected from men is rarely acknowledged. Men are expected to absorb pain without showing the impact. Men are expected to be strong without ever asking what that strength costs. Men are expected to provide stability while rarely receiving it. And eventually, pretending not to care becomes a survival mechanism. A man will pretend he doesn't care about being misunderstood, even when it keeps him awake at night. He'll pretend he doesn't care about feeling unappreciated, even when it slowly breaks his motivation. He'll pretend he doesn't care about emotional distance, even when it robs him of connection. He'll pretend he doesn't care about losing someone, even when it tears him apart. And the world misreads all of this as emotional detachment. But what people interpret as detachment is often emotional burnout. Behavioral science explains this phenomenon as adaptive emotional withdrawal. When emotional expression repeatedly leads to negative outcomes, the brain learns to associate vulnerability with danger. So instead of engaging, men begin to retreat. Instead of expressing, they endure. Instead of reacting, they suppress. This is not a lack of emotion. It's an overabundance of suppressed emotion. Men withdraw not because they are weak, but because they've learned their emotions don't have a safe place to land. And here is the hardest truth. A man who feels unsupported eventually stops expecting support. A man who feels unheard eventually stops speaking. A man who feels unseen eventually stops showing himself. A man who feels unvalued eventually stops offering his best. Pretending not to care becomes his way of preventing deeper disappointment. He tells himself, if I don't care, I can't get hurt. But men do care, deeply, silently, consistently, and the exhaustion comes not from the caring, but from the constant effort required to hide it. There is a moment, a quiet, barely noticeable moment, when a man crosses an invisible line inside himself. It doesn't come with yelling. It doesn't come with anger. It doesn't even come with dramatic emotion. It comes in silence. It is the moment he realizes he can no longer afford to care openly, because caring has become too costly. Men reach this point slowly. It's not one event, it's accumulation. The 1,000 small dismissals, the subtle criticisms, the unreturned efforts, the unacknowledged sacrifices, the emotional risks that led to emotional punishment, the vulnerability that led to distance instead of closeness. Little by little, a man learns that silence protects him better than expression ever did. And this silence is misunderstood by nearly everyone. People say, he doesn't care anymore, when the truth is the opposite. He cares so deeply that he can't handle the weight of being disappointed again. People say, he's checked out, when in reality, he's been checked on for so long that he no longer has energy left to give. People say, he's emotionally unavailable, but they never question what made him that way, or who made him that way. Men don't become emotionally distant without reason. They become distant because caring loudly costs them too much. And when a man finally stops pretending, it looks like this. He stops arguing, not because he agrees, but because he knows speaking will be used against him. He stops initiating, not because he's lost interest, but because he no longer wants to feel unwanted. He stops explaining, not because he has nothing to say, but because he knows he won't be heard with understanding. He stops being vulnerable, not because he lacks depth, but because his depth has never been valued. This is how emotional exhaustion shows up in men, quietly, predictably, inevitably, and the world rarely notices until he is completely gone, not physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually gone. A man reaches a point where pretending not to care feels easier than caring and being punished for it. And here is the real tragedy. When a man stops pretending, when he finally withdraws, when he shuts down completely, It's not because he stopped caring. It's because he cared alone for too long. Men are tired of pretending they don't care because the act itself is draining. They are tired of carrying emotional weight in silence, tired of being expected to be strong without being supported, tired of holding everything together while slowly falling apart inside. But beneath all of that exhaustion lies a truth most people overlook. Men want to care. They want to feel deeply. They want to love without fear. They want to express without consequence. They want to be understood without judgment. They're not tired of caring. They're tired of being punished for it. So if you have a man in your life, a partner, a brother, a son, a friend, and you notice that he's quieter lately, less expressive, less present, less open, don't assume he doesn't care. Don't mistake his silence for apathy. Don't interpret his calm as indifference. Sometimes the strongest men are simply the ones who have run out of places to put their pain. And sometimes, the kindest thing you can offer a man is a space where he doesn't have to pretend anymore. A space where he can be real, where he can be honest, where he can be understood, where he can be human, without consequence. Because when a man finally finds a place where he no longer has to pretend he doesn't care, that is when he begins to heal.